All right, DJ Alessandrini here with another weekly reference lap. This time we are at Oulton Park in the Miata, and we're going to just jump right into it with the start of my reference lap, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. Okay, so that's the lap there, and oh, I did not mean to close that, so we'll open that back up so we can use it later. All right, so now we're jumping right into the data. Again, Kenneth Husil is our data guy that we're chasing this week, and he put down a killer lap. It was very tough to catch. It looks like he did 26 laps in this session to my 28, so about the same amount of laps to get the track down this well. It was a very tough lap to beat, so congrats to Ken. To provide any kind of meaningful feedback on this. So just looking at the setup real quick, it looks like I'm running a firm bar. Ken is medium, and he runs his shocks a little softer than mine, and it looks like he runs a little bit more rake than me. So oddly enough, Ken's car looks a little bit looser than mine this time around, even though normally it's the other way around. But I think with the race, a car that you're easily going to be able to put down the qualifying laps that you need is going to be crucial. This track is very tough. It's really, really easy to off track, and in qualifying, you only get 3 laps, so you only get three shots. Okay, so the straightaway, nothing to learn there. All right, it says section 2 here. This is turn 1. I think we're just going to go off of the sections just so I'm not mixing up turns. But all right, so right away we go into this. It looks like well, first off, I'm holding a little bit more speed into this than Ken does, and that's just basically just braking a tad later. I'm curious. I just roll more speed into the turn there, and we leave with basically the same amount of speed. So all the time gained here, which is about a little over a tenth, is all just in this area right here, and then leaving, I'm just a half mile an hour faster than Ken here. So just a tiny little bit on entry is the little bit more than a tenth there, and then I gain a half a tenth on Ken on that left at the bottom of the hill there, and that's all on entry. And this one's real tricky, and we'll talk about this a little later. But yeah, this was super tough. It looks like Ken just kind of overslowed for it a little bit. If you look, he was able to get on throttle a lot earlier than me, and he's actually a tiny bit faster than me down this whole straight right here. So he's about, I wouldn't say it's tiny. I mean, he's almost a mile an hour faster than me down the straight. So that's why it's only a half a tenth. But I mean, just from entry to where we're about the same speed is almost a quarter of a second. But then his little mile an hour per hour advantage coming out of that corner kind of nullified that entire advantage, and you can see that on this graph right here. So good job on Ken getting a good exit out of there. And honestly, this kind of approach might be better for the race, because he'll check up everybody behind him. Somebody like me wouldn't be able to roll a bunch of speed through the apex, and then he leaves with a better exit speed. If he leaves with more exit speed, the draft will probably not make up for that, and he'll be very tough to pass right here. We're going into section 4, which involves that really high banked hairpin, the carousel. And Ken gains a half a tenth on me here. And it looks like he just rolled a little bit more speed. Like if you look at here with the throttle and the brake, he just broke like just a tiny bit later than me and a lot less than me on average. So he just rolled a little bit more speed into the entry. And it looks like we left with about the same speed. Let's see. Yeah, we're basically identical leaving there. So just minuscule differences here between Ken and I on this. And then five is a huge section here on the data. It includes the first chicane and then that fast right hander and then the uphill left. So there's a lot to break down here. Into the chicane, it looks like I just attacked it a tiny bit harder than Ken. It's like the most minute of differences. It's actually pretty awesome to see how close we are in this. But he left with a little bit more exit speed than me. And I think by the end of this straightaway, we are basically tied. So my little bit of aggression here into the chicane was completely made up by Ken leaving a half mile an hour faster than me. And so at this point, that's so just on entry, that's 2/10, but with his mile an hour or half mile an hour difference down that super long straight, which will be the best passing opportunity, that basically nullified any gains I made on the entrance there. So what I'm taking away from this is I need to be a little bit more cautious on the entrance, because again, if you're checking up people behind you and then you get a good exit, it's way less likely they're going to get a run on you, and way less likely you're going to have to defend into what this corner is the fastest corner on the track. It's real fun, and you hang it all out. And just looking at the data right here, it looks like Ken slows down a little bit more than I do, but then I leave with more exit speed than he does. So, and then that basically, with all this stuff together, this section turned into me having a tenth of a second advantage. And then 6 is that long, really awkward right-hander where there's it's kind of two corners, but if you can loop them together into one, it would definitely be faster. And just jumping back to 5, section 5, it looks like it kind of cuts it off here, actually. There's a section right here that the data doesn't have, where the mouse is right now. So, I slow down more than he does, and then I hold more speed through the end of the corner, and then again we leave with the same exit speed, exactly the same actually, if you can see that after compression and upload. So that's pretty awesome that we leave basically at the same speed, and just with this little gap in the graph right here, that's about a half a tenth. So we're going to pull up the lap again, and I'm going to quickly go over just kind of things I'm looking at and things I'm trying to accomplish during the lap. And man, this is such a tough track to get a clean lap on. I can't say that enough. It is just so tough. All right, so for turn 1, I'm braking. Oh, too far. So for turn 1, I'm braking basically when the gap between this white line and this grass is the biggest, which is just before it like hooks back in right here. So, I flick the car in. I'm trying to take a lot of the inside. It seems like the off track's a little bit more forgiving on the inside here, and the off track out here is just brutal. Like I was probably an inch from getting the off track, and I was going to be cussing up a storm as I did a lap that didn't count. So, and then turn 2 into this, or 3, or however they're going to say it, but basically this downhill left. I'm just trying to get to this inside curb as fast as possible. There seems to be just a ton of grip on the inside of the track here. I don't know if it's on camber or whatever, but it's a little tough to tell in the sim. But I'm just trying to get to this inside curb. It seems like the car hooks up really well and you're able to get on power quickly. And then the curbing here isn't an off track, but an inch out of it is. This is another corner where I was an inch from an off track and the whole lap would have been discounted. So that's very tough. Just going to have to play it a little safe there. And then here I experimented with a bunch of different things, but I found that a lift to kind of set the front left tire to just brush up in this area was the fastest and the safest, because there's going to be a lot of people running. Look, I think that was me. It was. I had a flick here and went and died. So there's going to be a lot of people on Tuesday that run wide here and go into the grass. This is one of the you're going to die zones. And this wall won't catch everybody. Somebody's going to fly through here and be a Larry. So make sure that's not you. And then there's 2 schools of thought here. I know Tom O'Gorman, he likes to keep it in third through this corner. But both Ken and I like to go to second. I just feel like it's just easier to replicate the same thing every time when you go to second in this corner. And basically I'm trying to time up when I get on throttle to where my car will just jump out of this bowl here and touch this curving out here. And I'm just carving distance and I'm keeping right as long as possible before I flick my car into the chicane. And you want to open this up. Oh, let me back up a little bit. You want to open this up as much as possible. You want your car like right on this bag, so you get a nice wide entry into this little bit here. And I mean, you're playing with fire here. You hit this bag, your race is over. But it's a risk versus reward thing. And then you're just gonna let your car just trail out. You just want nice, even power going down. So you're just putting as less drag into the front wheels as you can. And this corner is real tricky. I'm braking basically in between these 2 curbings here. And it's a real soft brake. I'm just trying to tip the nose into this corner. And then however the corner goes is basically when and how aggressively I get on throttle. And I assume when I'm behind somebody and I have draft, I'll shift to 5th here. But I found that it was faster to just leave it in 4th and carve as much distance as possible. And stay track left all through here. And then so you have the widest entry possible into this. And honestly, in this lap, I kind of bombed in a little fast. I didn't quite get to this. I've had laps previously where I do the section better, and it generally looks kind of like this one in the beginning, but I'm not bombing in as hard, and I'm able to get back here and open up the wheel sooner, and the car just kind of floats over this hill and lands on these left curbs. I don't have the car pitched up as long, so then I have more rolling straightaway speed here. And then this is a tricky braking zone. Let's see if I can back up. Okay, cool. If you notice, it kind of goes up a hill a little bit, and then it goes down, and then back up just a tiny bit. See, down, little down, and then up, and then down again into this bowl. It's a little tough to see in this video. I think it's easier to see when you're driving, because you'll see the positioning of the car change. But basically, where I'm trying to brake is just, it's in between these 2 rises. There's a little bit of a dip here, and that's where I'm braking. And then here, the car is obviously going to get light cresting over this hill. I want to get to the inside of this curbing. It kind of like scoops the car, and you're able to get on power nice and early. And the important thing with this turn is going to be opening up the wheel as fast as possible, because the car wants to float out here, and you need to just let it. If you keep that wheel pinched up, you're going to go for a spin. All right, well, that was the reference lap for this week. Again, thank you to Ken for providing his data, and he really pushed me this week to go out there and try to find any kind of benefit for him at all. It was again, it was such a tough lap to beat, and he is going to be a force to reckon with on Tuesday. So, all right, guys, get your practice in, and I'll see you on Tuesday.